How do we learn anything? By doing, right? By doing, by playing. Action is the catalyst for learning, and persistent, consistent action is what drives transformation. Welcome back to week 4 of our IBC Black Belt Bootcamp. This week, we're deep diving into the powerful connection between compounding interest, our daily habits, and our money. The infinite banking process isn't just about math, it's also about mindset. Together with Gabe Ratana, we're going to show you how small, intentional steps lead to unbelievable results. We're grateful to have you on this journey with us, so buckle up because it's time to jump in and take some action. So we're on week 4. And every week we're building on the principles presented in the week before. One of my favorite thinkers was Einstein, not only because of his math, but because of his understanding of human nature. He said, one of my favorite quotes is, you have to understand the rules of the game, and then you have to play better than anyone else. And so in week 1, we talked about the problem. We talked about how if you don't understand the problem, then the solution is not going to matter to you. We talked about how banks are not our friends because we work hard, right? We work hard for our money. And then all of a sudden, the banks are the ones profiting off our money. And then in week 2, we talked about assets versus liabilities. We talked about how assets add to our wealth and then liabilities take from our wealth. They take from our family forever. And last week, Gabe loved this one. He had some great examples. We talked about the cash flow quadrants. We talked about being an employee, right? Being self-employed, the E and S quadrant, which is on the left side, which is man trading time for money. And then when you eventually can transition over to the right side of the quadrant with the big business owners and the investor, then all of a sudden your money is making you more money. It's not a complex quadrant system, but it is complex in the small habits that take us and our patience in getting there and making those small persistent changes to really help us get to that next level, to get to the ultimate thing. When you go from the left side of the quadrants to the right side, not only do you have money freedom, but you start having time freedom, and then you get to other freedoms as well, the freedom of a relationship, and then the ultimate freedom is the freedom of purpose. Why are we here? How are we leaving the world a better place than we found it? And that is what we start finding as we shift from the left to the right side. So the natural evolution of our process of our 9 weeks is to talk about compounding habits and compounding money. And again, I already mentioned Einstein, and Einstein, Gabe, I'm going to let you read this quote so I can get you involved here.
Yeah, I'm glad you put the quote up there because I was thinking of it anyway, and I didn't want to mess it up. But compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it, and he who doesn't pays it. And we want to be the ones leveraging. We don't want to be the ones getting leveraged, right? That's something we've been talking about. But compound interest it's a law of nature, and the more you pay attention to other people using it, you can learn how to harness it for yourself.
That's it. And in the chat, write down what business uses compound interest. Now, if you've seen our presentation, the full money multiplier presentation, you're probably raising your hand thinking banks. The banks pay compound interest, Jason, but they don't, right? Money in motion makes more money. Money not in motion doesn't make money. So all we're doing is showing you, like our bodies, right? We're both martial artists, and if we don't go and train and don't move our bodies, we get stiff and stale and we don't feel so good. It's the same thing for our money. And so you can look at different places that have uninterrupted compounding interest. And what are some of those places? Put them in the chat. We got Dexter here. I know you know some of these things, and Frank, right? And things like a CD at a bank, a high yield savings, a money market, dividend stocks. There's different things that pay the uninterrupted compound interest, but they do other things where they lock up your money. They might be taxable. So today, when we go into infinite banking, we're going to show you why this is the most optimal thing. And if somebody knows something better, please tell us. We're always open to learning and applying those different things, right, Gabe? And now we're going to play a little game. So Gabe, the fun exercise, if you guys saw this, I'm going to maybe frame it a little differently. But Gabe, what would you rather have? The $1 million question. Read option A or option B for the people.
Option A, a penny that doubles every day for a month. Or option B, $1 million up front. What would you take?
Well, I already know the answer. I already know the answer. And I want to see, we got option A, option A.
Yeah,
So
see a lot option A.
we got some smart people in this room. But let's look at option A. Like we usually see this, we see the chart, right? But this reminds me when Connor just started learning math back during the pandemic. We would do this game where he would do 1 plus 1 all the way up to like 30,000 something. 1 plus 1's 2, 2 plus 2's 4, right? 4 plus 4's 8, 8 plus 8 is 16. So day 4, man, that $1 million is looking pretty damn good, isn't it, Gabe?
Yeah, if your neighbor took it and you didn't, they'd probably be having a party right now. Probably inviting you over and you're sitting here with 16 cents.
Yeah, we get to day 5, we got 32 cents, right? We get to day 6, we got 64 cents. Man, this is not going so well, Gabe. Now we're on day 7, we got a dollar 28. Like it's not feeling like we're gonna get there, right? So
Hmm.
when we look at this, like frame this in terms of what you do on a day-to-day basis. We're going to go into mindset in a little bit, but I think this exercise does a good job with that because we're just talking about 30 days. You might look at this as a fun exercise to show the actual math, but really pay attention to when compounding takes place and ask yourself, has there been a time in your life where you wanted something and you started off strong? Maybe it's a New Year's resolution, right, Gabe? Maybe it's getting on the mat and being a martial artist. And you start strong and you're excited and that excitement wears off. And then other things come up and you stop right before you're going to see the real growth. Now look at this, Gabe. Look at that. That to me, I tried my friend too. I tried multiple ways to make a better graphic than that because Gabe pointed out, I don't really love that graphic, Jason. I was like, how do you go from day 27 and show that double of going up, that dramatic faction? And so with patience, right? Delayed gratification, imagine that these days were months. Imagine these days were years. Really, what is that big vision for each and every one of you here today? I mean, I'm grateful that you're here. I felt so blessed earlier when I was working on this, Gabe, when I knew that you'd be here today. Because Gabe's like, I'm not going to be here. I'm with my family today. I'm like, cool, I'm rocking on. He's like, okay, I'll be there. Right. And
Yeah, I don't want to miss it.
no, I mean, we don't want to miss this for all of you because this, if it changes one person's life, the ripple effect is huge. That's the compounding interest of what you're putting in to what's coming out the other side, your input and your output. So wouldn't everything in our life be better if we looked at today's action in terms of what will happen to our future self? Like how much do we love our future self? How much do we love and are we attached to the outcome? And our reality, if you don't really think long term yet, the reality is that we haven't evolved as, people have not evolved to the point where we really think about long-term thinking, that we think about these things. So this is a constant habit like we're talking about today. And so I know we were talking about the penny or the $1 million. I tend to go off on tangents. So thanks for being patient. But look at this final reveal. If you took the penny by day 28, we showed you'd already be behind the person that took that $1 million. And I bet you that person that took that $1 million, what do you think that person did with that $1 million, Gabe?
Julio seemed like he wanted to take it. I don't know. I think he might have bought an asset, but most people they buy a car. They probably even just buy a house, right? Things that people want to do with their money, probably travel, right?
Go to
Like we
Vegas,
talked
put it on
about,
red, put it on
go to
black.
Vegas, you know. But you can have your cake and eat it too if you buy an asset first, right? Like we've been talking about, right? You buy an asset first with $1 million and let them and then live off the interest, live off the cash flow of your new money coming in, or maybe run it through a whole life policy. Yeah, look, Julio bought a whole life insurance policy. That's why he took it. Forget the penny. He's like, I can get a whole life insurance policy right now, guaranteed. There we go.
That's amazing. And then Julio,
Yeah.
if you had waited, look at the reveal. You get 5 times with a little bit more patience. So I love that you went and got your whole life and the compounding effect. Like, look at that. And then imagine day 31. Now you got 10 million.
Hmm.
What if we were able to negotiate and get the penny to go out a little bit longer? So that's 5x the initial $1 million offer, right? So waiting and being patient and sticking to your big goals has significant outcomes. Before we jump into the mindset portion, you know, put in the chat, if you will, who's your favorite athlete, your favorite artist, musical or otherwise? Anybody have anybody? Like, for me, how about for you, Gabe? Any martial artist, any favorite artist, anybody that pops right to your mind?
Yeah, I'm biased. Shanji Hibero, he's the jiu-jitsu legend. He's my coach, so I'm biased to him. Um, in the UFC right now, John Jones is one of the best. So it's pretty incredible watching him. He was the youngest ever UFC champion, and uh, he's still going at it. The ones that have longevity and and there's a difference between a martial artist and a fighter. So fighters are kind of training for a fight. Martial artists is just a lifestyle, and they're always ready. And for them to continue and be there after decades, that's what's so cool about my instructor. He's been doing it for 30 years,
That's
and
amazing.
he's still on the mats. Um, yeah, Michael Jordan. He's like the Michael Jordan of jiu-jitsu too. So Michael Jordan was my guy. I went to North Carolina just because I was a Michael Jordan fan. So that's where I went to college. Yeah, I
That's
like sports.
incredible. That's incredible that you were a Tar Heel. All right, a Tar Heel. That was
Yeah.
my team growing up, watching those basketball teams. I thank you, Lee, for sharing. I mean, think about how many, like, we've heard about all three of those: LeBron, Michael, MJ, Magic's, their work ethic, their consistency, how they show
Mhm.
up first. Like, think of Steph Curry. Like, we're talking about martial
Kobe
arts.
Bryant,
Yeah, Kobe,
Kobe
right?
Bryant with that Mamba mentality. He would outwork everyone. He would wake up at 4. He'll be at the gym at 4, so he'd get 2 or 3 practices in before everyone else.
And the reason I asked this question, Gabe, is because, like, I'm glad you brought up Kobe. I didn't even think of him, which is unreal. With Kobe, they talked about how Kobe worked on the most basic footwork, the most
Yeah.
basic beginner stuff. And other pros will look at him and be like, why is he working on that? And he did it hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of times, and he was unstoppable. He was unstoppable. I had the privilege, like you were talking about your favorite martial artist. I had the opportunity, and I mean, it was just a blessing. You talk about a blessing. I had my master is Chief Master Neri, who's an eighth degree black belt, multiple time world champion in Taekwondo and been teaching for 30 plus years on the mat. Now he's an elite cyclist. And we had a lunch the other day, and then he's like, "Oh, sir, is it okay if Grandmaster comes and joins us?" So I'm sitting there with an eighth and ninth
Uh,
degree, master. And we were talking. The only reason I bring this up is because we were talking about the habit, and the number one habit that they both said is the most important in their training and everything is discipline. It's discipline. And so let's look at this next page, right? Anybody recognize that guy? Little Jocko, he has a great kid series, by the way, called Warrior Kids, Gabe. So, maybe grab those books for your kid, for your
I
son.
think we have some actually. Amy has a couple of those books
Oh,
already.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Connor won one at one of the white elephants, and he was so bummed out. I'm like, just give it a chance, bud. Just try it. And now it's like our favorite series. It's so good. But that discipline equals freedom. So now we're moving into the mindset. We showed you a little bit about compounding interest, and today's simple. We're just going to go through in 3 steps. We're going to talk about the compounding mathematics, the compounding mindset and habits, and then we're going to go in and show you why compounding interest is so powerful with infinite banking. So, if your goal, like, think of a big goal you have in mind. If your goal is to do a marathon, endurance race, maybe be a black belt, hike up a mountain, what do we need to do to have that success? Let's look at some of the common choices, like the small choices that make up our daily living and what the effect is. Like, I was thinking about this, Gabe, this morning, the warmth of your bed, the warmth of being near your spouse, and the alarm goes off. It's Thanksgiving. Or do we pick that, or do you pick the challenge of working out? You went and worked out this morning, right? You got up and did it.
Yeah, but slept until 9, you
What?
know. took our time. We hung out with the baby for a little bit, and then we went and trained. A couple of the we got 5 kids in total. So Emery and Max, they're 11 and 12. They came with us and they helped watch Koa while we got a chance to train. Um, but we make it a lifestyle, and it's in the sometimes like we don't plan ahead too much. So last night I asked Amy, "Hey, do you want to train tomorrow?" She's like, "Yeah, okay." So we train, but we put it in the books and we make it happen. It's not. It's when it's a lifestyle. It's just like you have your rituals, your routines. Then you don't let the mind uh, take over and hinder and interfere. Because I think we just get in our own way, especially if you have a good coach or someone who's a good mentor who's laid a pathway for you. And when we're thinking long term, we just got to be good with the day to day. We just got to get out of our own way and do what we're supposed to do.
Hmm. That's power. I love how you frame. Just get out of our own way and do what we're supposed to do. Like last night, I mean, one of the things that's helped me when I went through like doing Ironman training, and like people always say, well, how did you do the swim? Or I couldn't do the swim, or I couldn't do this. I'm like, if you break it down, like Patty keeps telling me, you keep trying to eat the elephant's ear before you eat the foot. Like you gotta get down and start at the bottom and just take step by step, small action.
Hmm.
Like a lot, something that comes up once in a while is I'll get sucked into a series and I'll binge watch or I'll start scrolling and then you stay up late. But your habits start the night before. Like you and Amy talked about, hey, you want to train tomorrow? Yes. And then you made it happen because you already had the agreement that you were going to do it and planned accordingly, right? It's a lifestyle for you. And same this morning, it was like get up and do a 5K or get up and ride. So all my cold weather gear, even though it's only 57 out, but it feels cold in Florida, was all laying out next to my bed, all the stuff, trying not to wake up Patty and the boys when I got up before they were awake, and out the door when it's still dark. So just think of those small choices. They really matter with our success. And Gabe, want to tell one of your stories here about the power of consistency, like you're talking about the daily effort, the planning, the cultivating the good habits?
Yeah, sometimes we get motivated or inspired and we go really hard. At least with my personality, that's how I used to be. I would go like really hard into something and I might get like 2 months out of it, whether it was working out or trying to I always wanted to get good at basketball and at football, but going a little too hard would sometimes lead to injuries. And with martial arts, when I would get hurt, because I was doing a little bit of striking, like kickboxing, before I just focused on jujitsu, and I would pick up all these little injuries, and I would have to take time off the mats. And eventually, I once um, through understanding compound interest and uh, learning the IBC mindset, I started applying that to my fitness, my working out, and I just wanted to get 1% better every day.
Hmm.
Focus on not getting hurt, protecting, like almost like don't lose any money, right? Protecting what I have, and just tomorrow I'll be 1% better. Tomorrow I'll be 1% better. Tomorrow I'll be 1% better. After a year, it's 365% better. And what matters is that I don't have to restart the momentum. Once you have the momentum, you want to keep it going. And I think that's really important. And next, 5 years have gone by and not gotten injured, and you start to see exponential results, especially if you have a good plan and you've stuck to the plan. The exponential results end up being something you never even really dreamed of, really, to be honest. Um,
And Dr. Benjamin Hardy talks about it, and he be your future self now, right? Where he talks about again going back to the planning and thinking long term. And this is what Nelson Nash talks about as well. Think long range, think long term, really seeing and connecting with that future self on a daily basis, like Gabe's talking about, and then taking the steps, the daily commitment, sticking to that plan, and being willing to mess up, just say, hey, I don't know it yet, or hey, I had a bad day. Like I love the 3 questions at the end of your day, just asking yourself, what worked, what didn't work, what can I do better? And maybe adding in, what am I grateful for? What have I seen God's hand in? What am I blessed for today? Because when you have that gratitude in your heart, it's really easy to stay consistent and to keep moving forward and not judge yourself. And I think a lot of people get stuck in the judgment of themselves, or a lot of people come into IBC, Gabe, and they think, at least in my mind, the 3,000 plus conversations I've had, they're coming in thinking, man, I wish I would have known about this 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. But then because they see the vision of what's possible, but they want it right now. And then they get frustrated, right? And then they say, well, I can't do this because, I don't have enough money to start. And we really have to give ourselves the freedom, the permission to say, hey, it starts small sometimes. It starts by just, saving more. Like, we make this much, we spend this much, and we save the in between. Now we just want to save a little bit more. Maybe look at something we're
Yeah.
not using in our life, right? Something that we can
Yeah.
build up over time. Gabe, what's there
In
for you?
jiu-jitsu, I have people who come in and they've been doing other martial arts or grappling over 20 years, or they've been in the military. And in our style, it's so much more about moving yourself in a very stoic approach. Get yourself to where you need to be, prevent from getting put in, bad positions, learn to use your body weight and your movement, not to use like sheer force and try to impose things on people. And the people that come from like the military, they have a lot of that where it's just like they want to impose things, or like they've had a bad day and they want to take out their aggression on people. They're not getting any better at jujitsu. And in jujitsu, you won't get promoted if you don't have the skills and also just like the demeanor and the maturity as a practitioner. And exactly what you're saying, they have to just start with, let me just work on this one thing, and let me just work on moving myself correctly from this position, and eventually we can build on that. But if you have a really bad foundation, or it's just completely wrong, it doesn't matter how fast you're going if you're going in the wrong direction. Okay, so it doesn't matter how much money you make, and but if
Mm.
you're giving all the money away to the banks, to the IRS, it doesn't matter how much money you make. With infinite banking, we want to do it the right way so you keep and multiply your money.
I love that. And it starts with your foundation. And it starts, I thought about that because I used to watch, and this is something, I'll just admit it, like this was a fault of mine as a leader. It was a lack of patience. But I would look at, someone on the mat in martial arts, and you would see everything coming from the upper body. Nothing coming from the floor, nothing coming from the power, from the hips, from the
Mhm.
floor coming through the hand,
Yep.
right? And I could see it, even though maybe I wasn't physically doing it. And I would be like, oh, no, it's like this, versus letting people do things the wrong way for a while. And then eventually their body starts adapting. They start moving, just as long as they're consistent with it and they're patient with themselves. Like, the results are unreal. Like, I'm seeing it in my family. I see it with other martial artists that are there. It's really cool. And it was funny, like when you said about the military guys, the first day they came president, it's like, if you're a guy, all the guys here know they've done this. Like, think about like something in the back seat that you can't reach. Rather than getting out of the vehicle, how many of you have like reached over the seat, stretched as far as you could go, and dropped something, fell, twisted, got hurt, or done, or like, you're trying to carry two things, three things, four things, five things, rather than making two trips, like guy logic, or something you're trying to like do something that takes some maybe articulation and some patience, and rather than like using it and very carefully putting the thing together, you just crank on it until it snaps, and then you're like, man, I wish I wasn't such a man about that. Right? Like that's what Gabe reminded me of when he said that. It is patience and persistence and understanding that, hey, things have to flow. Things have to flow in a uniform way like water, right? The people that can flow, the people that can adjust when things are coming at them, that's what we want to build with all of you. And that's what this IBC course is about, is having you get on the mat, having you flow with your money, understanding the principles of how to do this. And that brings up these stages of growth. And these stages of growth, think about when you start something new. It always, and Gabe hasn't seen this, I don't believe, but it always starts feeling it starts in a state of arduous, where you're gonna work harder, work longer, do it more often. And it just like it's like doing this webinar, right? It starts off in arduous. It started off with one person, and sometimes that one person was Patty, or it was Connor, or maybe like a family friend logging in. It starts small. It starts when you don't see the results. And then you're just patient with it. And you keep doing the thing over the small, consistent, persistent steps over time. And eventually you're going to get to a stage or Gabe training jujitsu. Maybe it's frustrating. Maybe you're not seeing the results. You're like, why can't I do this move? Why can't I use this momentum? Why can't I do the thing? Like, for me, why can't I kick this high? Why can't I get my leg above my waist? It's arduous, it's tough. It doesn't really feel that fun, but then it starts entering momentum. And people start noticing your results, when people start seeing that and you start feeling it, and momentum starts building more momentum, and it makes it easier to do the thing. And eventually you get to abundance where it's easy and flowing. And that's what a lot of us see. We look at people we admire, we look at the Michael Jordans, the Kobes, your master, the masters, and I see them do things. It's effortless, it's fluid, but they've been doing it for 30 years, right? So that abundance comes from going through arduous to momentum to abundance. That's why the saying is the man or the woman at the top of the mountain didn't just fall there. It's slow, consistent action. I know I keep repeating the same words, but that is the persistence and consistency that we're looking for, right? Gabe, any thoughts there?
Well, where you just one of these words identifying patterns, and you mentioned earlier when you were watching someone, they weren't connecting from the ground, and that's something that's happened in jujitsu for me. I'll notice things, and it might not make sense then. It might take me some patience and some practice to eventually feel it, understand it for myself. Um, but it does take time, right? And here, this is how we do it. We train, we test, we teach, we practice. And by teaching, I've actually learned a lot. Uh,
That
Absolutely.
that's the way that you see what you don't know. Like if you're
Hmm.
not able to explain something simply, then you don't really fully understand. And that's another one of my habits. Ask my wife. I tell her all the time, "Oh, yeah, this is like this." And she's like, "But I don't understand." And then I'll try to explain it and I don't know how to. And I'm like, "Wait, I don't really understand either." It's my damn ego getting in the way again. Like look for your ego. Your ego is your enemy. And so when you take the philosophy for IBC for life of training first, going in, setting yourself up with the good habits to do the thing over and over and over again, then turn around and teach somebody else, then, or test yourself actually. You can do this either way, train, teach, test, or train, test. Testing yourself will see where you're at, like how well do you know the form? How well do you know the move you're trying to do, or this infinite banking, and then turn around and teach somebody else. Say, hey, I'd like to show you this, or you see someone trying to do it. And make sure you celebrate. Like every time you do something well or you do a hard set, find someone to high five if you're training with someone. Or guess what? You don't know the difference. High five yourself. Pat yourself on the back. Give yourself a hug. Try it. Gabe, high five, man. Right? Give me a high five. There we go. Right? We high five. And that celebration anchors it in your nervous system. It anchors it in your nervous system. You learn to celebrate. Patty, when she does something well, she starts posting or does something well or gets the messages out to all of you. She does a little dance and she celebrates. And I'm like, that's awesome. So take what you do in your daily life and apply it to all aspects of your life. Train, teach, test. And this just has, what does your routine start? Like failing to plan is planning to fail. And who's heard this before? Well, show of hands, give me an eye if you guys have heard that. So the night before, like there's a great book called The Miracle Morning. He's updated by Hal Elrod. He's updated it and added the miracle evening because all the success in the morning comes from planning the night before, comes from, writing your stuff down in a notebook. Because Gabe asked me, he's like, wait, you like to script all this out? I'm like, no, I just like to know what the lines are looking from beginning to end. Like, what is our message? How are we delivering it? And going through step by step and making sure it's consistent. And then you embrace those consistent routines. You celebrate when you do them well, and you let yourself off the hook when you don't and say, hey, I'll get back on the hook. I just got in the cold plunge, Gabe, for the first time today. Since I looked, it was 9/28, right before Hurricane Milton was the last time I went in. And I came back from Milton. It took me a week to clean out the plunge, to refill it, to put on, to get it down to 39 degrees again. And I've been avoiding that thing like the plague, man. I've had my bathing suit on 4 times this week and never got in. And so an hour ago, I had read a friend of mine sent me something. It's like, hey, I'm doing this for 66 days, because it builds a habit. And he's on like day 20. I'm like, that's it. Today's day one of 66. So we got in, we did 4.5 minutes, 39 degrees. So what is the thing for you guys? And thank you, Frank, Dexter, Lee, for the eye. But what's the thing today that you're going to commit to, that you're going to change before we even enter, the beginning of 2025? Don't wait for a New Year's resolution. Pick it what you're going to change now. So remember, your choices, your behaviors, environment, conscious choices, forming habits, curating your environment, giving yourself a chance to succeed. I'm going to skip this one, and we're just going to go into why interrupted compounding is a game changer, right? So Gabe, bring us through this one. This is just going through infinite banking and why the compounding is never interrupted.
Yeah, once the money goes into a policy, we don't interrupt the compounding with fees, with taxes, or withdrawals. So it's in a tax-deferred environment. Eventually, at your death, the money goes to your beneficiaries tax-free. If you start taking withdrawals from it, obviously that would interrupt the growth, the compounding. So we use the loans so that we don't take from the original principal. It's almost like you have a mirror account. You're taking a loan from the insurance company that's the same amount as it would be in your cash value, and you're just literally never interrupting it. I wish we had the chart showing how much fees and taxes can really catabolize your growth in the long term, because the majority of your growth is going to be on the back end. But with the policy, it's and Jason said, about choosing your environment. It's the perfect environment for your money because it's a warehouse for your wealth. No one can access it. They can't take it from you. Um, you don't have to pay for like private security to manage your vault, and then you get that compounding.
And that's it. And we're going to look like paying cash, the traditional method, right? Or, we're going to buy a car like we do in the money multiplier presentation. You're saving up 25,000 a bank, so you got discipline. You're going to withdraw that money to buy a car. And then when you do that, when you withdraw the money to buy a car, what happens? The money's gone forever. So the question is, you've not earned any interest, and like Gabe just said, it doesn't protect your family. It's not protecting Gabe's 5 children and his wife, or my 2 boys and my wife, right? My family, the things we love. And so, like Gabe said, we want to build up the cash, and there's only one way to do it. You either capitalize slowly over time, or you've saved in the past or had a windfall, and that money comes in, and you're capitalizing up front, and you're putting that money into policy. Then that money continues to grow, uninterrupted compounding interest forever. And you borrow, you collateralize, you take a policy loan from the insurance company, which gives you flexibility on how you're going to pay it back, like your banking system versus using a traditional bank where you have to pay it back monthly in a, in an organized fashion for a certain amount of time at the same time and all those things in a structured loan repayment. And so here, instead of withdrawing the money, you take that policy loan, and then you're maintaining your growth, and you repay the loan as you want to. Like you pay the simple interest if the money's out working for you, or you pay it back when you have a windfall. This is to store your money. This is a warehouse for your wealth. Again, all we're teaching you on a weekly basis. And if you haven't got on the mat yet, like a lot of you here are practitioners, but if you haven't, just go ask yourself today, what is the thing that's keeping you from training, from going on this and testing yourself to see where you're at, just starting the process to get going? Like, what is that gap? Because look at this result comparison. Like, I love this visual, Gabe. Traditional bank account, not growing very much over the same period of time that you would with a whole life insurance policy, right? Because a whole life, it is growing, it is watered, it's getting nutrients and dividends and everything. and it never stops growing. And it's also delivering a massive windfall when you're no longer here. Because guess what? I got bad news for you guys. It's Thanksgiving, but at some point, we're not going to be here anymore. So we're almost to the end, guys. So the compound interest lesson: choose compound growth, choose compound habits, choose compound vision. Like, what is the thing? Choose and versus or. Choose and versus or. We talked about the penny doubling, giving you $5 million by the end of 30 days. And yesterday, I thought of this. It's about 24 months of patience for a lifetime of payout. Most of the designs we're doing for the specially engineered for you policies, you're talking about we talk about being a marathon, but it's really the first 24 to 36 months that you don't have access to every dollar you're putting into this machine. And so,
Yeah, during that time, you want to use your policy, even if it's like, say, for a phone. Instead of most people finance their phones through their carrier, why not you purchase it and then you pay back that loan? Like on the car example, the $25,000. Once you pay back that money, you can use the $25,000 again. You have access to it. So once you pay off that line of credit, that money now you can use it to buy an asset, to buy another debt off from a third party, creditor, but start practicing with it and get some small wins so that once 5 years have gone by, 10 years have gone by, now it's a no-brainer. If say your premium's $10,000 and now you get uh, for me, my one of my policies, it's $8,000 right now after my PUA dropped off. When this year, when I put in 8,000, I'll be able to use about 1,400 of it. Okay, so it's not quite double, but it's almost double. So maybe say by year
14,000.
10,
Did you mean
yeah,
14,000?
say by year 10, it's 16,000, right? So when you put in $1, you get two back. By then, it's a no-brainer. I wish I would have put in, 80,000 a month, but I didn't. I never had that ability. Uh, but if and Brent always made it stupid simple about that cash on cash. Um, but you have to start, and that's the hardest, like you just said, in those first 24 months, 36 months, because you don't see that full amount. But by the time it's obvious, it's a little bit late. So you want to get those small wins in the beginning, and now you change your environment, you reorganize your life so you can start funneling all your money into policies. And we don't want to intimidate you, but that's kind of the even beyond black belt, right? There will be degrees. You don't have to be putting in all of your income into a policy to be a black belt. In my mind, a black belt, you can be just an expert, just a master of the art. But there's just so much depth. Like when I'm around Brent, I feel like a total white belt, but I still got to remember, he's been doing this forever, and think about, where I used to be and where I am now. So like, don't compare yourself to other people. Compare
Mm.
yourself to where you used to be, and get to that future self, right? That big goal you have, that person you want to become in this process, in this journey.
That's really well said. Don't, comparison's the thief of all joy, right?
Yep.
We've heard that saying. And same when you're around Brent and Brent's talking about his 28 policies and the millions of dollars he has lent out and the hundreds of thousands of dollars coming in, and you're just like, wow, and how his span, he lends money to his kids and the kids lend money to him. Like, wow, he is banking at the highest level. He is a master of this. And there are other levels. I'm sure there's people that have been doing this longer and better than Brent has. Nelson had 40 plus policies when he started knowing and getting rid of them before the end of his life, right? Like the level of mastership is your decision. But remember, it starts with arduous. Just to bring it all full circle, it starts with arduous, and eventually that arduous turns into momentum, and momentum turns into abundance. Or said differently, it is about stepping on the mat, right? Stepping on the mat and willing to take action and making sure that you're storing your money somewhere where it is growing forever, where it is guaranteed that you have control of it, access to it. It's away from the government, it's tax free, and it's protecting your family. As guys, like this is, I know we have men and women here, but as a leader, as someone that provides and protects the way that Gabe does for his family, the way I'm doing for my family, and we're also, pro-creators, we do this and that's just our instinct, is to make sure that we're taking care of those around us, making sure that we're providing for them, protecting them. This does that better than any other thing that I've seen financially, because it gives you the choice of taking ownership of it, and then we get to train, teach, and test. The land my plane, we get to train, teach, and test. If you're not on the mat yet, it's okay. It's okay. There's only so much knowledge, so much reading, so much things you can do before you apply this. So if you're not on the mat because you're not saving money, then the next step is going and figuring out, how can I make a little bit more money, or how can I cut down my expenses a little bit, right? How can I do the things? If you're here, it's because you care and you want to apply. Like the great comments from Dexter Holliday and Michael Trayer, like they're amazing comments. And thank you guys for sharing that. Like the way that you're thinking about it, we all think differently. Like look at the differences between what you each wrote. Think about how I'm speaking about this and how Gabe speaks about it. Like we're both martial artists, we're both dads, right? We're both practicing infinite banking, we're both teaching infinite banking, but yeah, our language is different because we have different habits, different rules, different environments, but you have to start by taking action. Without action, there will not be any results. There will be no compounding. No
Yep.
compounding.
Can't compound what you don't have.
You can't compound what you haven't started. So
Skills, same with your skills. If you know you need to be better at managing money, you need to work on your money management skills. But that's not going to be from like, practicing and little workbooks. Like, it's going to be through tracking your cash flow, through maybe creating more cash flow. Maybe it's marketing skills, different things that you need to work on, right? If you don't have any skills, they're not going to compound. So you got to
yeah,
start.
what is the gap between where you're at today and that big
Mm-hmm.
vision? This week we covered compounding interest. We talked about compounding habits, compounding decisions, and also giving yourself some grace. It's a journey. We're human. We are
Yeah.
by nature sinners. We're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna stay up too late. We're gonna do something that's not good for us. We're gonna make bad decisions. But when you do that, just say, okay, how do I get back on track? What are you committing to? What's the one thing today? If you guys could just give me one thing in the chat, one thing that you're committing to do starting tomorrow differently than you've been doing up to this point. For me, it's going back in the cold plunge for 66 days in a row. No matter if it's raining or cold or awful, like that is my commitment to myself. And I'm doing that because I want to remind myself that doing hard things is the way that we grow. What do you got there, Gabe?
I'm be doing some reading, some research to starting your own farm, right? So that's going to be kind of the next journey for me. So I'll be committing to learning some new skills and something I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to have my own farm, and we have one under contract. But now I gotta be able to to run it and make it happen.
That's awesome. And see, Gabe, before infinite banking, you didn't know about this. Before 4 years ago, when I started asking better questions, I didn't know about this. So when you start asking better questions, Kim, thank you for sharing. Kim's gonna start exercising tomorrow again. Get back in
That's
shape.
good.
That's amazing. Right? We got to take care of our health, our wealth, our spirituality, our relationships. So keep compounding, keep being open to growing. And I really, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate all of you. I'm so grateful that you were here today. Happy Thanksgiving. Be blessed. God bless. Gabe, brother, thank you. Thank you for coming on this journey, for having the idea that we would do this. And let's keep going. We'll see you guys next week.
Hello, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving. I am very thankful for all of you being here and participating to my dad's webinar thing. And I'm also grateful for, the fact that he's doing this in the first place. Please, you can write in the chat what you're thankful for this Thanksgiving. Thank you. Bye.
So we got another week in the books. Thank you for being here and looking through compounding. Would you rather have a penny that doubles every day for 30 days or $1 million, right? You know the answer now. And your compounding habits. What are the small things, the small decisions that you're making on a daily basis? Persistent, consistent action. Discipline equals freedom. What are you doing to better yourself, to better your life, and the decisions that you're making? And how kind are you being to yourself? We talked about all those things today. If you're new here to the webinar, go ahead and smash the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you're alerted to new content. I'll see you in this next video where I'm excited to continue our conversation about infinite banking and how by making these small, actionable changes, taking action, training, teaching, and testing, you can change your life and change the life of those you love and the things that you care about in an instant by applying the infinite banking concept. So until next time, I'll see you in this video. Be blessed, stay blessed, God bless.